just thought I'd take a short break just to let you know about becoming a Breakout Bestie. So we've launched a brand new subscription service for the small businesses that need us in your pocket. So why do you need to become a Breakout Bestie? Well, it's just a monthly subscription that gives you access to us when you need us. There's a closed group where you can ask us any question you need. There's also an anonymous posting on, so if you've got clients in the same group, you can ask us anything and we'll get back to you. Sometimes that'll be a quick answer, other times it might be that we need a bit more of an in-depth chat. There'll also be posts and information on the latest trends, the latest strategies for social media, upcoming things from HMRC that you may have missed, just anything you need to make your life easier to run your business. You'll also have access to our client base and money off discounts and vouchers for various services we've got coming out. This is brand new, it's only just been launched, so have a look, go on our website under Besties and sign up soon.
There's so many pressures on people's wallets these days. Because that's the problem, isn't it? You know, we say to you, if I put some money into pension and don't have that money for the holiday next year, I'm going to feel rubbish. Or, if I can't help the kids go to that club or whatever. But the problem is when I speak with people who are 30s and 40s, and they're kind of like, wow, I've got all this way to go to retirement. It's only ages away. Why do I have to worry about it now? I'm like, well, if you don't start early and you don't start this and that's the way, it gets harder and harder and harder to save as much as you're going to need to maybe see me through 30 plus years of retirement. Putting £100 a month into a pension is not going to be sufficient to give me that lifestyle. However much I'd like to think it is, it's just not.
Hi and welcome to Business Rainbows and Unicorns, where there's no such thing as failure if you don't try. This podcast is specifically for business owners or wannabe business owners. Say you've got a side hustle or you've got a passion for something and you think it'd be absolutely amazing, or you see people that do amazing things with their passions and what they enjoy doing. Well, you can do that. So please subscribe and we hope you enjoy listening to this episode. Hi and welcome to Breakout Business Rainbows and Unicorns, where there's no such thing as failure if you don't try. Now today we have Ian Brightwell from Finance Guy. Hi Ian, what's your business name?
It's Ian Brightwell Financial Planning Limited.
Oh, there we go.
I like your version, that was nice.
Ian the Finance Guy, which is how I have since I opened. That's how I sell it.
Now I'm known as the finance guy.
Yeah. Yeah, do you have a finance guy? Yeah, I've got an Ian. And pretty much that's how I promote it. So, background, I've known Ian, well, we're only 21, so we've known each other for about 5 years.
Keep that going, yeah.
Yeah. So Ian's works with his wife. I grew up with Ian's wife. But also he's a brilliant finance guy. So for those of you that don't know my backstory, I was made redundant from Green King in Bury St Edmunds. How old's Emily? 9 years ago on maternity leave, and obviously had a really good pension. Now I've always been quite honest with Ian, and it bores the hell out of me.
Yeah.
And I think probably about 90% of the population, no one knows what pensions are. Everyone assumes the money just disappears, but we know we need it somehow. So Ian stepped in and has looked after my pension for me and helped me work out what that is. We then have annual meetings where we chat over a cup of tea. He shows me some slides, chat some more. And but today we're going to talk all about Ian's journey, what he does, how he does it, and how he's going to make us millions.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here. Thank you very much. It's a really nice introduction. Thank you.
So, Ian, the finance guy, tell us, what was your journey? How did you become the finance guy?
Oh, really good question. Yeah. Well, actually, as a friend of ours that we probably both know from school, when I was working at Waitrose, actually, strangely enough, I remember coming home one day and I pulled up into my driveway, and I had a couple of friends who lived down the road, and one of my mates pulled out and he had a brand new Audi. And I was like, how the hell have you got an Audi when you're like 21 or something like that? And how does that work? So I got talking to him, and he was a financial advisor at Barclays at the time, and I remember thinking, oh, that's quite interesting. Okay, fair enough. I mean, my dad had always been advised by a guy who'd known for decades in Ipswich, and it always fascinated me about how finances worked. It wasn't necessarily the product. It was like, how do you make money off of a share? How does that benefit me? How do you know which ones to pick, what to do? So I'd always had an interest and always sort of sat in the background. And I remember being in Waitrose where I graduated, got a sort of part-time job there. And I was talking with a friend of mine, and I said, I really fancy doing finance. I don't know why, I just have this thing in the back of my head. So I went to go and see my dad's advisor and said to him, and he said, well, I know you well enough to know that your skill set is well suited to it. Give it a go. So
also in Waitrose, aren't you a partner? So you've got shares or a share safe.
Yes, yeah.
As well. So, because I had shared safe at Green King. And I remember when I started at Green King at 21, so I've just left. The first thing my dad said was like, pay into their pension because they'll pay into it. And if they've got a share safe scheme, put as much as you can every month into it. So, because Waitrose are still quite good.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've not really kept in touch with people work there enough to know what the latest bonuses are, but it's still very much a feature of how they're paid. But yeah, I think that's the thing. Families need to talk more about money. Yeah. Hugely. You don't get taught this stuff at school. We therefore need to have conversations as families to be open and honest about what money is, how it works, what it's doing for us, where it is. I mean, we see it from both ends of the scale. We see people come to us where they've not made any provision for what they're going to do when they stop work, and they're in their 40s or 50s. And that's because they've not been educated to know what they need to do early enough to make that a feasible thing. But similarly, you see at the other end where we're dealing with people that passed on, and people in the family said, I had no idea that money was even there, or I had no idea that they had this or that in the mat around. So if we can sit down, I mean, that's one of my passions, I suppose, in finances, and why I do the job, is to help people understand what their options are and make the smartest possible decisions, but also get people talking, get people conversing about their money, because it's an important subject, and not enough of us know enough about it to make those smart decisions.
It's always been quite a taboo subject as well, wasn't it? Because it was like at Green King, you never spoke about how much everyone else earned, so you never know. And then even if there was an inkling, I mean, I always had an issue because I was one of the lowest paid, but I just, I'm female or whatever it is, or just generally a bit crap at my job. So whatever the reason was, that's fine. But I got to the point where I was on over 40k a year. So for my age at the time, being on over 45k a year or 40k, I think, because I hadn't hit over the 40%, over 40k a year. I had my company car. I'd done quite well. I had my share save, I had my pension. So it was all, but Green King kind of did all that for me as well. Yeah. Whereas you have a lot of people where that's, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's quite an old school way of working. Yeah. Whereas now you join a company and it's just like you get thrown into a nest pension because is that the law now? Is that the... Yeah,
subject to criteria either end of the scale, but if you're a working person, then generally you will be put into a workplace pension scheme if you're employed.
Yeah. There's no share save. There's the benefits have slowly gone down and down and down, so...
Yeah, I think now as well, when you think of all the final salary pensions that used to be existent, which are now stopped for people that are still working, unless you're in the army or NHS or police or something, final salary pensions don't exist anymore. So that financial security you have where you knew if I just work here for a number of years, I've got a really good pension at the end of it. That's not the reality for a vast majority of people working now.
They final salary pensions where you get your salary once you've retired, isn't it? Is that?
Yeah, you get a fraction of your salary for each year you work there. So all of the risk is with the employer. They have to give you a certain level of benefit if you work there for a certain level of time and on a certain salary. Yeah. So all of the risks with the employer, none of it's with the employee. But also, you didn't really have to put a huge amount into that historically either. Most of the money would come from the company. Now it's more being put on to the employee to put money in, and also the contributions you get from workplace are a lot less than they were. So it's a bit of a double whammy. People are not realising how much they need, and also there's less money going in generally for retirement anyway. So that auto enrolment legislation, as it's called, is forcing both employees and employers to opt out of doing a pension if they don't want it, rather than having to opt in as was previously the case. So that's great, but it's really not going to be enough for most people to live on. I think that's the one thing I want people to take away from meeting with me, is that do not rely on a state pension to fund your retirement. Don't rely on putting 3% of your salary into your pension, expecting it to blossom into some huge amount. We need to be doing more, but it's a good start.
Yeah. And I think that's what, when I've done self-assessments with people, now the HMRC is coming into the 21st century, and you now log on with your government gateway and everything, and you can click on your NI, see how much you paid in your NI. It comes up in big bold, by the way, Farley, you can retire in 2300. You're like, oh, I'm working for a while. But then it gives you the magic number of, oh, you will get 10 grand a year as pension. You're like, and you work it out and you sit there and you're like, oh, that will pay for my food next week.
Yes, that's a big thing. There's so many pressures on people's wallets these days, which I'll come on to in a minute. But it's just this, retirement living standards. It's not a kind of industry body. They're just a body of people that are concerned about people's living standards and educating people on how much they're actually going to need to live a comfortable retirement and what that actually looks and feels like. Because that's the problem, isn't it? When we say to you, it's not going to be a great amount of money, people can't relate that to an outcome that's in 30, 40 years' time. They kind of go, well, I know if I put some money into pension and don't have that money for the holiday next year, I'm going to feel rubbish. Or, if I can't help the kids go to that club or whatever, there's lots of pressures on wallets now. We're seeing causing problems in the future if we try to balance so many things. But the problem is when I speak with people who are 30s and 40s, and they're kind of like, wow, I've got all this way to go to retirement. It's bloody ages away. Why do I have to worry about it now? I'm like, well, if you don't start early and you don't start this and that's away, it gets harder and harder and harder to save as much as you're going to need. Because eventually, I love my job. I don't want to be doing it into my 80s and 90s. I want to stop. I want to enjoy my retirement. And that means I've got to save enough in my 40 odd years of working to maybe see me through 30 plus years of retirement. Yeah. So putting £100 a month into a pension is not going to be sufficient to give me that lifestyle. No. However much I'd like to think it is, it's just not. Now, whether you do it through a pension, whether you do it through property, whether you do it through savings, business growth, whatever, how you achieve it is a discussion for the advisor and the client. The needs to achieve it is universal for everybody. Yeah. So it's really, really important people grasp that. But rather than bore you to tears on this, minimum living standards for people. This is retirement living standards. So you can Google it, you can look online and look this up yourself. But a minimum lifestyle for a single person, they're going to need 14,400, and for a couple, it's 22,400. So a minimum lifestyle is essentially covering all your basic needs with just a bit left over for fun and social occasions. So you could holiday in the UK, eat out about once a month, and do some fairly affordable leisure activities a week. Yeah. But that doesn't sound like a very fun retirement. No. But if you need to be, there needs to be. For a moderate one, that goes up to 31,300 for an individual or 43,100 for a couple. So a moderate lifestyle is giving you more flexibility. So you could have one foreign holiday a year, eat out a few times a month, to have the opportunity to do a lot more of the things that you love to do. Which sounds obviously a lot better. And then we're talking comfortable retirement is 43,100 for a single person and 59,000 for a couple. And that's a lifestyle that can be more spontaneous. You could have subscriptions to streaming service, regular beauty treatments, regular holidays, both in the UK and abroad, go for mini breaks and stuff like that, replace the car. Yeah. So I think we need to make a decision earlier on in our life so that we give ourselves chances to do something about it, to decide which of those lifestyles that we want. Now, obviously, state pension is a massive help. And if you've got a couple, that could give you in excess of £20,000 a year worth of income. So not all of that heavy lifting needs to be done by the individual. But once you've factored that in, and possibly if you're lucky to have a workplace pension as well, that might take some of that as well. But we need to know what we're aiming for to work backwards to where we are now and say, right, this is where you want that. If we do nothing, this is what you're going to end up with. If we do something, this is what we need to do and how much we need to put in to get you to that place. Yeah. Because like you said at the start, people find finances generally uninteresting until they start to picture their lifestyle. And I think that's the key bit of my job, is that people don't care the product. They don't care less what the product is. What they want from me is, I'm here now. This is where I want to get to. What do I do to get me to that point?
Yeah.
How do I deal with this? What do I need to save? Where do I need to put it? And I think if we're answering those questions, I mean, my brother's a perfect example. He couldn't care less. Yeah. When I sit down for a meeting with him, he genuinely couldn't. And he'd find with me saying this, it's not his
Same
thing.
with me.
It's very similar in that sense. It's like, tell me the highlights. I don't need to know all the stuff. And I'm saying to him, this is why we need to focus now, because if we don't do it and we split down when you're 65 and all of a sudden you go, well, that's not enough. Yeah. It's too late. We need to do it now to give you time. And I'm doing the same with mine. It's all about starting with the end in mind and working backwards.
And I think people don't. Have you noticed a change in people? Because obviously you've been doing this for 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years sort of working for myself. Yeah, another 13 odd years before that. So
yeah, and you were with a bank before, weren't you?
Yes, with HSBC for 13 years roughly, all over East Anglia. At one point thought I was going to stay there forever. I loved it. A really good company to work for, and I enjoyed my role and enjoyed what I did. But there was a couple of things I want to bring up today, is that there was a couple of major redundancies. So in our industry, you have to be suitably qualified. And in 2012, there was a new raft of regulations that came out that said you had to be better qualified than ever before. There was a massive load of work to do. Alongside your day job, you had to study lots of exams, etc., to get higher levels of qualification. And to cut a long story short, they thought as an industry that was going to lead to less demand for our services, and therefore some places made redundancies, and HSBC one of them, big round of redundancies. And they had one in 2012, one in 2013. Now I was kept on both times, which is, at the time I thought, oh, fantastic. I'm clearly doing a good job. One of, I think it was 4 of nearly 300 odds that were made redundant. I was only one of 4 that was kept on.
Nice.
Which I felt really chuffed with at the time. Wow, I must be doing a really good job. But I think it soon made me realise the way they handled the cuts and the redundancies wasn't as good a place to work as I once thought.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't stop everybody whacking there. This was still a good company fundamentally, but it just made me realise that everyone that worked there was a number. Yeah. It was, as soon as it suited the business, I would be out the door. And the job security that I thought I had was very much perceived security, not actual security, because they could pull the plug at any
No, they can find a way.
So that whole experience made me think, I've got to start doing something more for myself, where I can build a business that I can work within. I also found parts of the job a bit frustrating. We were quite restricted. We didn't have a full range of products, a full range of services to give to clients. One thing used to gnaw away at me a little bit, as I know I'm doing the best I can with the kit bag of stuff I have, but I know there's better stuff out there. And that was always an awkward conversation to have with clients, but also for me to know mentally. Yeah. I think I want to know that I'm doing the best for that client, not the best of what I can do. Yeah. So I think the lack of job security, the way it was handled, the restrictions around the job, and more latterly, the fact that I was being asked to do so much more work and so much more output for an ever reducing bonus, all reminded me thinking, time is right, I need to go. Yeah. And I haven't regretted it a minute since. Right. It's the best thing I've ever done, and quite frankly, in a weird way, I wish I'd been made redundant a few years before, because it would have forced me to do this a bit earlier. But loving it, and I absolutely love what I do, which is a nice position.
Exactly how I felt about Green King. Really? Was once I wouldn't have been ready before then. Before I was made redundant to start myself. Yeah. But it's that thing of once you do work for yourself, because there are some people there and they're still in the corporate world, they still work for big brands, big companies, and they love it. They flourish. It suits them. Yeah. And if we were all the same, it would be a very boring world anyway. So it's great that it suits them. But that, like you say, if you're restricted by a brand of what products, or you're restricted by the hours, and I think for me, it's like you say, coming down to you suddenly realise that you're a number.
Yeah.
And you think, and I think that's the difficulty I found with corporate. You feel like you've got this amazing team and they're really good friends. And some of them, they are really good friends. So I still see them, we still socialise, and I've made some real friends for life.
Absolutely.
But on the flip side, some of the other things that happen that you're like, oh, you are my friend. I was talking to, we went for a meal. We hadn't all of us that, not all of us have been made redundant because it was a relocation. So it was some people that stayed with the company. We all went out for a meal, and I remember one of the ladies saying, she goes, I don't hear from my supplier, because we were in purchasing. So we had really good relationships with suppliers, as you do, because I was looking after £20 million worth of products and services. So to suppliers, a buyer at Great King's quite attractive.
Yeah.
She said, I don't hear from my suppliers anymore. I went, well, no, you listen. And she was like, yeah, but when this happened, when that happened, they sent me flowers, they always used to send me chocolates, they'd send me stuff for Christmas. I went, but that's your supplier relationship. That's your old school sales schmoozing. And but I remember walking away thinking that, and I didn't say this because I didn't want to burst the bubble. Yeah. But I remember walking around thinking, well, you're on a CRM somewhere. It's like, oh, I'm going to see Ian today. I know Ian's wife's called Marie. Yeah. I know where he lives. I know he's got kids. I know he loves football and he helps out with football. They ain't remembering that off the top of their heads. I mean, I don't remember that about some of my best mates. And I'm like, but I thought, I'm not going to burst your bubble. But at the same time, it's that, and at the time it was lovely. We had some nice meals. I got to go places and travel all over the UK. Brilliant. It's a different lifestyle. Yeah. But then it come down to it. I was like, well, I am a number. You only like me for my 20 million. It's not my 20 million.
Yeah. No, no.
So then now, and the same thing of everyone, all the relationships I've got, everyone I work for, I choose who I work for. I choose or who I work with, but don't work for people, so to speak. But I choose who I work with. And again, I can do the best I can. Yeah. I'm not restricted. I'm not swayed by anything. It's purely for the same reason. And if you can then take your customer service up to that next level, and you've got those morals and values, it will always sit right with you anyway.
Absolutely. I mean, from your personal perspective, then, had you not been made redundant, do you think you would? Do you have that entrepreneurial side of your brain that wants to go and do these things anyway? Do you think it would happen?
Well, I'd always done some bookkeeping and bits, and I hate to break it to people, but this was pre-social media. Facebook had just started. But we are 21, I promise. But yeah, so it was before, so I couldn't, social media work wasn't a thing. But I was doing bookkeeping on the side. I was doing bits and pieces. I did teas and coffees down the local country park when I was off for summer. So I'd always done bits and pieces. Yeah. I love the flexibility. For me, funnily enough, it was the money. So of course, I've been at Great King so long, I got a nice redundancy package. Yeah. And I get so many people come in here and they're like, I want to start a business, but I've got no money. And that was always my excuse. And I say excuse like that because I could have found a way to do it, but there was always an excuse, because rightly or wrongly, we get that salary at the end of the month. Even if I've done a bit of a shit job, I still get a salary. Unless I do something worth disciplinary, you've got a salary coming. Every month now I'm fighting for my salary. And I think as a business owner, you always get that time where you're like, phone isn't wrong, I haven't had any new inquiries, it's been like 2-3 days, what if this is it? Oh my word, no one's ever going to use our services again. And then something happens, so you're like, oh no, we're all right, it's fine. But you don't get that at employment. So I think it's that comfort blanket. So I think I would have done, but I think I'd have left it way longer than I should, because I ended up being a bit crap at my job because I didn't enjoy it. I wasn't happy. I went for a spell of having a manager that I didn't get on with, and it's just those things you're not in control of. But now, when you work for yourself, you're in control of all of that. So
absolutely, You've covered off a lot of things actually that are really relatable in terms of that feeling of a comfort blanket sometimes. When you work for somewhere so long, like I did, you know the job inside out, you know how to do it easily. You're in your comfort zone. And I think the salary side of jobs almost creates this, for want of a better term, hibernation mindset where you think, you know what, I'm getting my salary anyway. There's not the same motivation to really push yourself outside of that comfort zone unless the bonus structure is really good. And that's the thing I found really frustrating after a while, is that bonus structure just wasn't rewarding the extra effort that you're putting in. I mean, the bonuses the last 3 years that I was there, I was doubling the output, but getting a third of the bonus. And you kind of sort of, you just can't continue. You know, I'm not enjoying the job as much. I'm not feeling the professional satisfaction that I once felt. And then you're asking me to do so much more work for so much less pay relative to the time and effort you're putting in. You create an environment where people will decide to go, and unfortunately that happens a lot. But it's really interesting you mentioned there about that psychological side of how it works, because there are ups and downs, aren't there? When you run your own business, it is. There's days where you think, oh, I don't know how I'm going to fit all this work in, and there'll be days where you're thinking, oh, I don't know where the next bit's coming from. It always sorts itself out. It always averages out, and I think that's, I mean, even with an employed role, you know, I'd have months where I wouldn't know how I was going to get all this work done. And
no, exactly.
Where you're thinking, I don't know where the next business is coming from. But it's just that kind of more relaxed nature, I guess.
And I think as well, as you get, I think the money's good. So I was on over 40k a year. I wasn't on a bonus structure. But I was getting 40k a year. So I take the leap. I've got my redundancy money. And this is the thing, I'm quite comfortable talking about money. And it's the same, I do obviously loads of bookkeeping, self-assessments for people. And it's figures to me. I couldn't actually tell you what a client earns or what they do, because to me it's figures. But for me, because of that, I think I'm really comfortable with it. It's not such a taboo subject. So I will always tell people when they come into me and I'm like, oh, here's Ian's the finance guy's business card sort of thing. Because I'm like, well, I earn £12,570 a year. That's what I earn. I'm a limited company. That's how I've set it up. But then I put at least 250 quid a month into my pension. And I think some people are quite shocked how open I am with it. And I'm like, but I will manage my money and I'll manage my business according to what I need. So if, yes, my salary is that, but then I'll pay myself a bonus, dividends, whatever you want to call it, even though dividends have been chopped down. Damn you, government.
Don't start me on that.
Damn government. And I will rant to the best of them about the rich getting richer and these middle people that seem to, we work 24/7 and seem to have less money. That's a whole nother, I mean, I could do several hours of that rant. But, and that's what I always say to people, is that they're sorting out their business. They don't know where to start. They've got no money. And I'm like, but what do you need? What do you mean, what do I need? Well, you live to your means. When I earned 40k a year, I spent 40k a year. Okay, some of it obviously went into savings and other bits and pieces, but my salary, what came out of that, which wasn't obviously 40 grand divided by 12, which took share save, pension, and everything else, whatever was left that month, I spent that because it was there. Now I get my 1,000 and whatever, £47 a month. I spend that because it's there.
Exactly.
So you don't, and I think that's what a lot of people, it's almost that taboo subject. It's what everyone that you look at, that's my issue with social media, is you look at what everyone's got, you compare everything, but actually I've spoken to a lot of people and they're like, I can't afford that. I'm like, oh, okay, well, you've got a decent job. It's not that they can't afford it, it's because it's not a priority and they don't want to afford it. They earn quite well, but they're putting into ISAs, share save, whatever it might be. So they are squirreling their money away. So it looks like, and it's always a standing joke, because I drive around in my smart car and my face looks like how it is. It's like, she ain't got the money. Then they listen to my holidays. They're like, oh, she's a bit of a conundrum. How does that work? But it's that assumption of everyone just compares each other. But on the face of it, you might drive around in a banged up Escort But your pension might be like growing in the background because that person, like you say, has sat there and gone, do you know what? That's not my priority. My banged up escort works, but I want to be going on holidays when I retire or whatever it is. And
that is a huge point. That's something that I honestly can't believe the times I see this in my working job and throughout life, is that we were talking earlier about perceptions and how the world is based on a world of perception and what people see about you. And some people are very skilled at showing you only what they want you to see of their lives. Now, you're a very honest and genuine person. You're very forthright and out there. You know, you put yourself out there, which is something that I've always loved about you. I think you're great at doing that. And it's like it's genuine. Like, I love working with genuine people.
Yeah.
Because you know where you stand with them, and you can have an open and honest dialogue with them. And I think that's a really underrated characteristic these days of people, just being open and honest. We live in a world where it's all social media highlight reels of everything's gone great in my life, and I think it's easy to judge yourself against those unrealistic sort of images of people. But the fascinating thing I find with money is that I get let into people's worlds on a regular basis. Obviously, advisor role is a massive role about trust. It's really important to trust the person you're working with, because you're often telling them things, like you said earlier, people don't talk about money huge amounts. So when they're telling me stuff, I've asked questions of people. They've actually said to me in the middle of a bottle, I said, you're the only person in the world who knows about this, or I mentioned this to. And that is therefore really, it's a great honour to be let into people's lives in that way. But the thing that always fascinates me about money and perceptions around money is that the people who I look after, who have the highest amounts of money, all of them drive around in very average cars, wear very average clothes. You wouldn't know it if you walk past them in the street. Yeah. They're not pretentious. They're not arrogant. They're just down-to-earth people who generally have a lot of money. And on the other side of that, you have people who are perceived by people who go, oh, he must be doing well, she must be doing well, because look at the car they drive and look at that house. A lot of those people are leveraged up to the hilt. They've got debts coming out their eyeballs, but it's all about the image for them. Yeah. So I think that you shouldn't judge your decisions you make on what you perceive other people to do. We're all doing our own races. We're all doing our own journeys through life. And I think if you're happy with what you've got and the lifestyle that you have, money is important. It gives you options, but it's not the be-all and end-all of everything. And ultimately, if you are someone who says, you know what, I'm happy with my lot, regardless of what that is, and regardless of what that looks like to other people, you'll be the happier person that would too.
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, really, really important. And it's something that, again, from a passion and why I do what I do perspective, I don't want financial advice ever to be perceived as something that's only available to the uber wealthy.
Yeah.
When we come up with our business name, lots of companies use wealth management in the title. I don't want anyone to ever look me up on a website or hear about my business and go, have I got wealth? Do I qualify as that? Because very few people will think that of themselves. And a typical British modesty. I'm not wealthy.
No.
That can't be for me.
I don't have $1 million in the bank. Surely I can't work with him.
And we never wanted that to be a thing. So if financial planning is about just educating people to make the smartest, best decisions they can for their families, for their businesses, and making sure that they are knowing the implications of all the decisions. And it doesn't matter to me whether you've got £1 million or £10,000. It's the same delivery across it.
Yeah. And that's why I will use myself and be open with people when I'll say like, oh yeah, I know a finance guy. Because they're like, all right, yeah, I've got a financial advisor. They're like, you've got a financial advisor? Yeah, of course I have. But, and then it kind of, I'll say like, well, it doesn't really matter if you want to set up an ISA. Do you understand an ISA? They're like, no. Yeah. I said, well, Ian would help you with an ISA. And they're like, oh, right, okay, so it's all right for me to have a finance. I'm like, yeah, it is all right for you to have a finance.
It is 100% all right to have a finance guy. And this is the thing. I think when it comes to, like, you set up a business, for example, you automatically go, I need an accountant. Generally speaking, people want a bookkeeper or an accountant. They might need some help setting up the legalities of a business or whatever. So they will speak to occasionally solicitors if necessary on certain subjects. I think a financial advisor is also an essential bit of that, because if you're making the smart decisions, which you want everyone to be making, if you know what your business can do for you and how it can save you tax, and how if you organise things in certain ways, you can get a lot of benefit from it. Running a business takes a lot out of you to think of lots of different things. We all have various different hats on to try and promote the business, to try and secure it, to try and meet with clients, etc. You can't do everything. No. So park the bits you can't do well with other people who are experts. And I think trust is therefore really important. And we always have free meetings with people initially. The idea with that is that the client gets a chance to meet with me and see if I'm the right person for them. Yeah. Because I won't be right for everybody.
No.
And similarly, like you said, is that all clients, I'm now in a position where I don't have to take on everybody. Yeah. So if I know from the outset, thinking that this relationship doesn't feel like it's clicking right or whatever, I've got no problem now saying that I really appreciate you finding me, but I think you might be better served by someone who's better suited to you.
Yeah.
I think it's really important because the finance relationship between client and advisor is really close. It's really trusted. If you don't have that bond, that way of working together, it's doomed for failure from the outset, to be honest. And I think I'd rather have that conversation before disappointment starts to creep in. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. For me as well, the need to, when you're starting a business, understand basic bits that push you to make smart decisions. Like you mentioned earlier with your salary, for example, pay yourself a salary up to the thresholds where you're qualifying for state pension credits, but you're not paying income tax and stuff on that. Pay yourself dividends to make it more tax efficient way of extracting that money from the business. Put money into pensions, for example, through your business, again, to make your business pay less tax. It's all those things. We don't know what we don't know.
No.
So until you have those conversations at the outset with somebody, you go, oh, wasn't aware of that. Yeah. Definitely make sure I build that into my business plan, or how we pay ourselves, or how we extract the profits that we make, etc. If you know that from the outset, you're going to set yourself up for a lot easier and a lot better financial future.
Yeah. And we always find it better that if we've got a financial goal each month. So if we know how much we need to take each month, but we include like my pension money into that. It's not just, oh crap, we need to make sure we pay the rent, the utilities and salaries. We go over and above that, because actually then that gives us more of a number to aim for.
Yeah.
And then we'll work to that number. If we aim lower, we'll achieve lower.
Yeah.
We don't achieve the higher number. So we include that in everything. And I say to that, the number of people that come in and they're like, I want to start a business, like, brilliant. Okay, who's your target market? Well, everyone. Trust me, it's not everyone. I promise you, from experience, you do not want to work with everyone, because it's exactly the same reason. I can tell within 5-10 minutes of a meeting with someone, I'm like, yeah, we're not going to fit. And that's why I have so many people, so many contacts that do similar or the same thing as me, because I'm like, but they're very different ways of working. I'm like, you need this person. I'm not going to work. You're going to get annoyed with me. I know you are, because of the way I work. It's nothing positive, negative. It's not good, not bad. It is literally just because we don't like everyone. Otherwise, you'd be friends with everyone, and you're not friends with everybody.
Exactly.
And but on the flip side, it's the same. I've obviously encountered different financial advisors, different accountancy firms.
Yeah.
And it's weird, because I've had clients that work with accountancy firms and financial advisors that I've done their bookkeeping, so I know they're on paper they earn a lot less than me, but then the firms won't touch me, but it's because of the type of person I am.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, it is that like, well, you ain't got a brand new Audi out there. You haven't turned up in a hoodie and a smart car. I don't think we'd, and fair enough, they've obviously made that decision with me, which is fine. But at the same time, for me to then, a lot of people, I say, well, what kind of clients you after? What? So if they step through and went, well, I want someone with a brand new Porsche, Audi, whatever it might be, or they have to have 100 grand in their bank account. I've got plenty of clients that have got over 100 grand in their bank account, of which I've referred clients to you where I know they've got money sat in their bank account. So I've said, like, and they wouldn't have even thought of having a financial advisor, even though they've got quite a lot of money in their account. And I had someone the other day, and they were like, oh, do you know a finance guy? Again, self-employed, but they're on the thing of just like, they've obviously, what was their was it endowments, 80s?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Money, where the money just disappeared or there was issues. So they're saying, oh, I've never used a pension. What if I put it in? Will it disappear? Will it do this? Will it do that?
Yes, yeah.
And I've obviously said, well, I use Ian. And I say it every year. I sit there and go, what do you do, Ian? Where does yours go? And like, why use this pot? Okay, we'll do that. That's fine. If Ian says it's all right for his money, it's good for my money. But again, it's giving your cards out for different people.
Yes.
Because they know, okay, I'm not technically not self-employed, but I work for myself. So like, oh, well, what do you do? And so you're not talking figures. So obviously having a clue of how much they've got, because it's someone I talk to in the pub. But it's that thing again of just like, oh, well, she runs her own business and she seems to be surviving when we're saying that there's no money in the world. So so it's just things like that. But I think there's that other hurdle of getting over that distrust of, because I think the finance was such an unknown. So you're giving, and you hear, I don't watch the news or listen to the media, but if you listen to it too much, it's that thing of, where's my money going? Like, what is it? The bank's going to collapse? What's going to happen? Is it?
There's, and we live in a world full of clickbait articles as well. So everything is sensationalized every time anything happens, because news producers, the people putting that website together, they want clicks, they want ad revenue. So the more sensational a headline is, the more it gets clicked, the more money they make. So I think it's now got to a point where we have to sit through some of the kind of dramatization.
Yeah, dramatization.
But there's a word in there somewhere. My mind is going to. But see through the theatre of what they're trying to put out to clients and what they're putting out to the public, and see what the actual truth is, because people need to understand the realities and the truth behind it, and not just see the headline. And our attention spans are getting shorter and shorter. We're being fed more and more condensed material, and we need to see the bigger picture a lot of the time. But absolutely, perception of the industry is a real big thing. There's been a lot of people that were alive and saw the Maxwell scandals during the 80s with regards to him dipping in essentially to their pension funds, taking money out of them, which is illegal, but something he is, is created a lot of distrust. And there have been issues with certain companies in the past not always delivering on a promise they've made to clients. So there is understandable distrust in certain lands. And there's something that I think there's been so much change, so much regulation brought in, where a lot of those worries are easily addressed now. But that's why we need to talk about them. Because if a client has been put off doing something because they're worried about losing all their money, or because they think that there's going to be a potential collapse and they again see all of their life savings go, it's incredibly difficult with all the regulation, all of the spreading of investments nowadays, for that to happen. It's almost impossible. So it is one of those things now where I think we need to educate, we need to discuss our fears and concerns, and have those sorts of conversations with clients so that they know they don't need to worry.
Well, I got sent a video the other day, a TikTok video from someone, and they said, oh my God, is this true? I didn't even watch the video, but it started off with the clickbait. Oh my God, I'm telling you about the St. James's Place's scandal. If you've ever invested, they owe you millions. And I'm like, I'm not even watching this, because if I do, am I going to get hacked? Because it was actually... So I went back, and then I looked at the guy, I went, right, so you're going to watch a video that's got up 200 views so far by a man who's got a Facebook, what must have been Facebook or TikTok, anyway, whatever one, who's got 150 followers, over a massive company and team of experts. So just let me, because I've had a couple of people I've suggested using Monzo Bank. And they're like, oh, well, I'm not sure about the online banks, I don't trust them. And I'm like, well, we don't have a Santander in town anymore, so technically they're now alive. And they're like, yeah, but I've seen a video, Monzo takes all your money. So, okay, well, all my money's in Monzo, so if they do it, stuffed. But I said, well, just who are you watching? They send a video, and it's a girl walking along a street in Spain complaining all her money's gone. I'm like, so who is this girl? Like, is she, like, has she reported it to the, is it FCA? Has she done this? Does she talk about anything like, do you know what? I'm like, can we not on social media, can we not trust the randoms that have created a video to get views versus the experts?
This is again a problem where it's the who you listen to, because the long and short of it is that SJP as a business is based along partner businesses. So I run my Ian Brightwell Financial Planning Limited, and we associate ourselves with them. Yeah, it's the same with all the practices across the country, and because all the businesses they partner with are separate, they all have to do what's called ongoing advice meetings, like we do every year. We'll sit down and we'll talk through how things are going and what we need to do and tweak and change and that sort of stuff. And they, all companies, all firms charge, whether it's a separate fee or built into the product cost, an ongoing advice cost to provide that, to make sure that we're on hand to do that. And there's essentially the complaints are brought around the need for businesses that couldn't evidence that they'd done it. So they went back, I think it's 6 years, and saying unless you can prove each and every year you've been going back to these people, we are going to then treat that. If we can't prove it has happened, we're going to assume it hasn't. Yeah. And I mean, for us, we've got 100% client servicing across the board, so it's not been a problem. Yeah. But there have clearly been businesses out there that haven't been doing what they said they would do. Now, my personal take on that, absolutely. You pay that money back because you've been taking money out of people's pockets that you haven't earned. So if you've not been doing the work, like someone said, I'm going to come around and do your garden. Okay, cool. And they never turned up for years, but my direct debit was still going out. Be like, well, where the hell have you been? So absolutely, that money needs to be paid back. But the problem is we live in a world now where society is all like, where there's a claim and all that. SJP's chief exec that only started last year come in and said, right, there's a problem here. We need to sort this out. And I'm not going to wait for complaints to start coming in or regulators to tell us we have to do. I'm going to make sure this is sorted now. So in my eyes, it's done 100% the right thing and said, right, we're investigating this. We are proactively contacting customers, saying to them, have you seen your advisor each and every year? Are you happy with the quality of advice? Are you happy with the ongoing service? If there's any gaps in that service and we can't evidence that it's been done, I would show you a report, we can't tell you the date of the met, etc. We'll assume it's not been done and we will refund those charges that we've taken so that you put back in the full position. Now, for me, it's not ideal that it's happened in the first place, and the businesses that haven't been servicing their clients 100% should give that money back. I think it's really wrong that that's happened, but unfortunately it has. But they've identified it and dealt with the problem and are not waiting for people to have to complain and regulators to get involved, etc., which I think is a massive plus. But in the world of headlines, it's not good enough. Like there's been lots of stuff, and there's a company in particular who I won't go into now, but they are a claims company. So like with the PPI times, they'll come in and take all of the work off your hands kind of thing. But they take about 48% of the claim as well. And actually the regulators wisely have come out and said, look, if you've got a complaint to make it direct to these companies. So all these people on social media going, they've set aside all this money, you could be due hundreds of thousands of pounds, all this sort of stuff, all the sensationalist stuff and the fear-mongering. If you genuinely have a concern, go directly to your provider, whether it's SJP, whether it's Quilters, whether it's Barclays, whether it's Coots. If you've not seen your person, go directly to them. You'll get 100% of the claim. Everything is being heavily scrutinised. These companies are using scare tactics. They're using I've had a couple of clients ring me up saying, we've only seen the advert, we haven't clicked on it, so we know we see you every year and everything, and we're very happy with what we do. But they're getting bombarded with phone calls, messages, which begs the question, A, where'd you get the data from? Where did you get their information from in the first place? And secondly, these people are not interested in you as the client. They are not there to be the client champion. They are there to make money. There's been a recent cap brought in around the fees that they charge. So because they weren't, because the way they are regulated, in the financial services industry, there is a cap on the amount of fees you can have. It's not present if you're more of a legal firm. But more recently, I think the FCA have come out and said go direct. They've also put in a legislation that caps the fees that these places can charge, because it is, in my opinion, immoral. To take half someone's money for not really doing a great deal is not good. and the tactics they're using and the fear mongering that it's causing is unnecessary, because the problem's been identified, publicly dealt with. But to have that going on in the background and people, genuinely getting calls to the point that they're like, how do I stop this?
Yeah.
Is becoming a real issue.
Yeah, I think it's taking advantage of people that don't, like you said earlier, you don't know what you don't know. Yeah. I had clients where they were in debt on utilities, and ultimately, and it was only because I was helping them get quotes for different ones, that the bill went, that's not a normal amount. And it turned out their utilities company said they owed like $6,000. And she was like, that's not their usage. So their usage was treble ours. And they just assumed it was because they had a hot tub. And I was like, but we've got a hot tub. So you can't be treble ours. And your house isn't their mid-terrace. We're not.
Yeah.
Anyway, they went back and I helped them with the emails and stuff. Utilities company just they said, there's something wrong with your meter. Wiped it off. Wiped all the debt off. And they said to me, they're like, that's amazing. How much do I owe you? I was like, 10%. Yeah. Obviously, I didn't. I just charged for the time it took. I said, you could have done that yourself, but it's just overwhelming. They're too busy with their lives. There's too much going on.
Yeah.
And I direct a lot of people to Money Saving Expert.
Yeah.
Because
really good stuff.
He's got it's the diesel thing at the moment. You can finance a diesel car.
Yeah.
But the brilliant thing is, because I did it for one of mine, you just put in you need the agreement number and a number plate, and you put it in, you click a button, and it puts an email draft from you to the right, because mine was Volkswagen Finance, to Volkswagen with all the details. So it's literally 2 clicks, and it's a really professional, really great email. So it's things like that. So then, yes, they've helped me, but I'm going direct.
Yeah. And
that's where I think the whole Martin Lewis thing is kind of, that's where I try and get people to go to. Said if you can get clickbait in these like companies that want to claim, want to take a big percentage, want to charge you, they're just almost taking advantage of your debt in a weird way, and that's
that is. I mean, I have massive issues with that kind of evidence chaser type, essentially, where they are using fear, they're using a problem, and they're creating a market for themselves.
Yeah.
There's quite often fearmonger and aggressive tactics being used to try and secure business, where, as you said, always go direct. Always. And no matter how much work they are doing, it's not worth 48% of the claim that you do. It's 100% not worth that.
And that's your money you've paid out.
Yeah. So I just think there needs to be a little bit more understanding of what causes the problems and how to deal with them better. But I mean, talking about that side of thing, I know in advice circles, Martin, this can be a bit controversial. Is that there's that line between informing and educating and being seen to give advice, which we have to tread very carefully as regulated professionals. So it's very difficult for us to, for example, post on social media without getting stuff
I can save you 10 grand in tax.
Yeah, without saying something, there's then going to be controversial or somebody can challenge legally. So we have to be a bit careful. But the one great thing that he does is actually start that discourse, start that discussion in households and families and online and in the media about what we need to be aware of, what we need to challenge back, why we need to be talking about these things a lot more. I mean, the child benefit, a higher income child benefit tax charge, something that he's been a big sort of advocate pushing the government on, and that thankfully they've got that threshold up from 50 to 60,000, and they're now slowing the rate at which you have to pay that child benefit back if you're a higher earner. But the problem we've seen is that a lot of people aren't aware that that's even a thing until they get the tax bill, and they're like, oh, hang on, why is my tax bill that big?
Yeah.
And secondly, they're not aware that there's plenty of things we can do about that from a taxpayer perspective to get that money back. Yeah. So again, going back to that age-old thing of you don't know what you don't know. And people often, if I'm at a social event or if I'm at a business thing, people go, well, what do you do? What do finance people do? What does the finance guy? What's he all about?
What does the finance guy actually do?
We do lots of different things for lots of different people. But yeah, if it's about understanding what is important to that client, what their circumstances are, and understanding where we can make improvements and suggestions, because it's not a universal one-size-fits-all kind of thing. What's right for you won't be right for me, or won't be right for the next client. It's all about understanding what their challenges are, what their goals are, and putting in place the right things to get them there. That's fundamentally, a financial advisor's job is like a financial sat-nav for best. You find out where you are, where you want to go to, make sure you get to that point. But there will be disruptions along the way. There'll be challenges. There'll be, deaths or unemployment or a change of role or a baby or, lots of things that could come through life that will affect our plans. We need to be able to reroute around those. So all the plans need to be flexible. Understanding that it's not just an exclusive thing for the rich. It's not just a mega investment. This is about helping people understand how they can make the best decisions for them and their family and their businesses, and to help or get help getting their financial future sorted, whatever that means to that individual.
I think as well, it's like going back to what you said at the beginning. No one don't teach you in school how to pay bills. You don't get taught how to different utility companies. They don't teach you about what insurance you actually need, and it's that you look a lot. Thanks for listening to this episode. We really hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please share with a friend who you think needs a bit of help with starting a business, or even their small business which they've already got going. Please like and subscribe to our podcast, which always helps a small business or small podcast like us. And check the show notes. We all have everything in there relating to the episode which you might need, might want to read, and links to anyone we've interviewed and certain subjects we've spoken about. And thanks for listening.